All right, Jennifer. So I've gotten to know you a little bit, and you've told me about your life. So I have here that you do live on campus. You don't really have any support systems in the area. You do have your brother, but it seems like you don't see him very often. So some of the main problems that it seems like what you're dealing with is just mainly the procrastination due to work and school at the same time.
Correct.
Which is what is increasing your anxiety and your lack of sleep. So let's start with this. So whenever that comes up, whenever it comes to you starting to study or you need to study, what is it that you would say distracts you the most often?
I have no motivation.
Okay. Is that just a lack of wanting to work on the assignments? Does it, like, the tasks are too hard, assignments are too hard, or...
Probably that the assignments are too time-consuming.
Okay. Whenever you do go to study, what does that look like?
Well, depending on the subject, I usually have a textbook open, some notes by my side, and Netflix is open.
Netflix, okay. So, whenever you start to feel yourself procrastinating, do you feel anything, or does it just happen? What does that look like for procrastination?
Good question. I feel like my procrastination just involves me doing anything but homework.
Okay.
So, like cleaning or doing other tasks that aren't necessary at the time.
Okay. Okay, so it kind of sounds to me like we just need to maybe try some things to get you focused, keep you on task, and then maybe do some exercises and things like that to, whenever you start to feel like you're going to procrastinate, to really turn back and focus and do things like that. You definitely have the creative side, like the movie night, study night with your girlfriends. You seem positive, and that you want to change, which is understandable because obviously being stressed about homework is no fun. So what we can do is we can kind of try to come up with some steps about that. So let's just go and focus on some of the actual issues that we're mainly dealing with and that we want to address. So definitely the procrastination is one. Does that sound correct?
Yes.
Okay. And would you say that your anxiety level is something that you would like to decrease as well?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay. And then you said that you don't really have time to go out and do things very much. Like, you do still have your study night with your friends. But how often would you say that you actually take the time to go out and do things just for you?
Once every 3 weeks.
Okay. So how about maybe increasing that? Do you think that that would help with maybe your procrastination level and your anxiety level?
I don't think I have time.
Okay. If we were to decrease the procrastination and anxiety, do you think you would have time? Okay. Okay, so we can kind of put that one off until later. So let's kind of go over. Let's see. Okay, so let's see here. We have. Okay, so let's just confirm these as some of the goals that we can work on over the next few weeks. How often would you like to come? We can do it once a week for 3 or 4 weeks. Does that sound
Sure.
okay? Okay, and then hopefully by the end of the month, you'll feel like you've improved. Okay? All right, so let's see. For goal 1, for the procrastination, let's see, how does decreasing your frequency of procrastination by about 50% sound?
That sounds fantastic, but we'll see if that actually happens.
Okay. Do you think that that's a reasonable goal?
Maybe.
Yeah. What about by 30%? Does that sound like it's more realistic for now?
Yeah.
Okay. So we'll go with 30%. So goal 1 is going to be decrease procrastination, decrease frequency of procrastination by 30% within 4 weeks. Sound good? Okay. All right, and then second for the anxiety, would that sound about the same? Decrease anxiety about 50%, 30%? What do you feel comfortable with?
We'll do 50.
50%?
The big numbers.
Okay. All right, and then maybe later on down the line, we can definitely work on increasing the amount of time that you can go out and have fun with friends and things like that. Just do something for yourself. So, okay, so let's go over some of the steps that can be included that you can do during those times. These are all research-based steps. Such tasks would include creating time intervals for your studying. You said that you kind of just get your textbook open, you sit down, you get to reading, things like that. Do you typically study for hours on end? Do you break it up?
I study every day.
Every day?
All
Okay.
day.
All day.
All
Okay.
day, every day.
All right. So, maybe what we can work on, one of the tasks we can create is a time interval for certain assignments. Sometimes it's better to do 30 minutes, one subject, do as much as you can in that time, take a 10-15 minute break, do another 30 minutes just to kind of refresh your mind. That way you're not feeling like you're just cramming all the time. So we'll do that as one of our tasks. So for each subject that you do, try to break it up into 30-minute intervals. And then what I'll have you do is at the end of that night, when you've studied for a couple hours, or for that day, we'll have you rate 1 to 10 how you feel at the end of that day and whether or not you feel like you've gotten things done on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being the least amount, 10 being the most. And then we'll see how that works out.
Okay.
Let's see. For the second one, so the next time that you feel like you're going to start procrastinating, something else that's also really good to do is make a list of cons as to why procrastination is going to be bad. Sometimes that can kind of make you realize that, okay, maybe I should do this, maybe I shouldn't do. Whether it's a long-term goal, a short-term goal, things like that. Does that sound like something that would be reasonable?
I mean, if I'm being honest here, the list sounds like another form of procrastination to me.
Okay, so maybe not that one. Okay, that is okay. Alright, so the next thing that we definitely have, and which would probably be very good for you, because you did mention earlier that you like to keep Netflix open. It is one of those things that whenever we are trying to do things that we don't necessarily want to do, we do get distracted easily by other things that we would much rather do, or is equally as mind-numbing, things like that. And unfortunately, our electronic devices have been proven to be one of those things. So I would say that whenever you go to study, try and limit the amount of electronic devices that you have on, whether it's turning your cell phone off, closing the Netflix, things like that. And then I'd like you to also keep track of that as well. So whenever you do go to study, anytime that you find yourself getting distracted with an electronic device, try to record that. And then we'll look at that weekly, and we'll go over that and see how well you did that week. And then the last one, have you ever tried meditation before?
No.
Okay. Do you know much about it?
No.
Okay. So meditation is actually a really good exercise for calming the mind, preparing oneself, and just clearing everything, and then that way you're able to do the task that you need to do. It really doesn't have to be more than 10 minutes. Simple breathing exercises can be done. You can do that either before you start the homework, after you start the homework, whichever, or in between, whichever you feel, or even when you just feel like you're getting ready to procrastinate, or if you feel, if you feel anxious, things like that. Does that sound like it could be good?
Sure.
Okay. So we'll try that, and then I'll have you keep track of that as well. If you do meditate, and then how you feel you did that night in terms of studying as well, we'll include that on the evaluation. Okay, so it looks like the steps that we're going to complete are the time intervals, And then we're going to do disconnect and meditate. Okay. So we'll start with these three. Obviously next week we'll take a look at them. We'll kind of talk a little bit about how that's going, whether or not you think something is working or being effective. And then we can go and base what we do further off of how you feel about those things. You know, if you decide after 1 week that meditation is not your thing and you just can't do it, then we can try and find other activities and tasks for you to do to help you complete your goal. And then hopefully down the line as well, we'll be able to really see some improvement. And then if not, we can always modify tasks, things like that, to see where exactly things aren't measuring up. So it's definitely, even though we have it here, it's not set in stone. We'll work on it together as we go. And then also to do the evaluation, what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you a handout. So whenever you go to study, you'll just put the date and the time. You'll put the subject that you're studying, whether or not you, used any devices in there as well for distraction, things like that. Yes, simple yes or no to meditation and how long if you did. And then just your rating of 1 to 10, 1 being not productive, 10 being very productive for the end of that night. So I'll ask you to keep track of just the first week, and then next week we'll just come back, we'll look at everything and see how you feel. Does that sound okay? Okay, awesome. So I will go ahead and I will give you this, and that does have my email information on it as well. Do you have any questions for me?
No.
No? Okay. Not a problem. And then, okay. So, again, that does have all of my contact information. So if there's anything that doesn't sound correct, please feel free to email me, call me, whichever you prefer, and we'll go from there. Okay?
Sounds good.
All right. Thank you so much for stopping by, and I will see you next week.